Hey everybody, how are you doing? Have to delay getting started just a few seconds. There's always a little Facebook delay, so it won't cut me off in mid-sentence. I have to kind of stall for just a minute and give people time to see the notification. If you're watching live, welcome. This video is going to stay in the group, so you can come back and watch it at any time. I also share these videos in our members group, our Young Living members group as well there. Today we're going to talk about the respiratory system, so I just want to give you like a brief overview of the main structures that make up the respiratory system. There's a lot that can go wrong in the respiratory system. There's a lot of things that we can do ourselves to support the respiratory system. Since this group is about essential oil education and non-toxic living, that's what we're going to give you in just a little bit. This is going to be a quick one today. The respiratory system is pretty easy. But it can be complicated as well. There's a lot of problems that can go wrong. So the respiratory system, I want to first tell you about the primary functions. There are two primary functions with the respiratory system. One is to take oxygen in and to oxygenate the blood, and then that is then transported throughout the body to all the systems and organs and tissues. The other function is to take carbon dioxide from the blood and expel it from the body through exhaling. So when you breathe in, you take in the oxygen, it goes deep into the lungs, and I'm going to show you those structures really quick. And the pulmonary, cardiopulmonary system is basically your respiratory and your cardiovascular system together. So you have the cardiopulmonary system, which is your heart and all of the veins and arteries and capillaries and all that working together with all of the structures of the respiratory system. And I'm going to show you guys exactly where that happens. And sometimes you'll hear those terms interchangeably, like sometimes we talk about just the respiratory system, sometimes we talk about the cardiovascular system, and sometimes you hear cardiopulmonary system, which is cardio, that's your heart, that's your cardiovascular system, and pulmonary is going to be the lungs and the entire respiratory system. So I'm going to show you this little graphic really quick just to have a visual. This is your respiratory system. There are a lot of words there. There are a lot of specific names for very tiny structures in different areas of the respiratory system, but we're going to look at the main parts of the respiratory system, okay? It consists of the mouth, nose, all your sinus cavities, and your throat or your pharynx back here. All of these things are connected. You've got the mouth, the oral cavity, the pharynx is here at the back of the mouth, your throat. All of those things are where air comes in. That's where the oxygen uptake happens. Then you have the larynx, which is just the very top part of the trachea. The trachea is the windpipe right here. So, you know, you can have pharyngitis, you can have laryngitis. It's just a different area of the respiratory system that's inflamed for one reason or the other. So your trachea is the windpipe that comes down. And then you have the bronchi, or the left and right bronchus, whether we're talking singular or plural. There, it's the same thing. So you have the left bronchus going into the left lung, the right bronchus going into the right lung. Okay? Those are just tubes. As they get smaller, they have a different name. It's all one pathway right there. So you have the bronchus going into the left and right lungs, and then the bronchioles. So you see how tiny those little pathways get? They get really, really small. You have your bronchioles that branch off from the bronchi, and you're just talking about a smaller pathway there. And then from there you have alveoli, which are these little, we have to get a blown up picture here because they're so small. We have the alveoli, which are those little sacs that are deep in the lung, each lung. And what that consists of is capillary beds. So you have capillaries, little vessels, right? Capillaries are part of the cardiovascular system. There's blood in there. So what we're talking about is you inhale, the air travels down the trachea, into the lungs, deep into the lungs, into the alveoli, into those little sacs, into the capillaries. That's where your blood gets oxygenated, in those tiny, tiny little sacs deep in your lungs, okay? And then another part of the respiratory system is your diaphragm, which is that muscle that goes across underneath the lungs. And when you inhale, that muscle comes down to help pull and increase the chest cavity size, to inflate the lungs. And then when you exhale, the diaphragm moves up to help expel all of the air from the lungs. And so you want to take a full breath. You want to fully take your air in and fully blow it out in order to have adequate oxygen exchange in the body. Okay, so we talked about all the little parts and pieces there, and there's a lot. If you looked at all of those little airways, how tiny they get, there's a lot of places in the lungs that can become inflamed and irritated and constricted, blocked, congested, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of issues that can come from those things happening down in those little air passages. And one thing that we're going to talk about that applies to what I'm teaching you guys about in this group is the fact that the things we breathe in can cause us problems, whether they are an allergen for us specifically, whether they are a chemical toxicant that irritates the air passages like bleach or Febreze or a wax burner or fragrances or, whatever we're talking about. If those things irritate and inflame the lungs, then you're obviously going to have some problems. So there's very easy things you can do by just avoiding some things to improve lung function. So if you know that if you clean with bleach that it irritates your respiratory system and your skin, don't use bleach. Use something else. There are other alternatives. So those toxins can cause problems in the respiratory system as well. Environmental toxins and allergens and things like that are sometimes impossible to avoid. But in our own homes, again, like we always say in this group, you can control the amount of toxins you're exposed to in your own home. So let's talk about some things that we're gonna use to support the respiratory system and optimal function in this group as far as essential oils, supplements, and products. So for essential oils, all of these main oils that support the respiratory system all come in the Young Living Starter Kit. Some of these oils have multiple uses, but they are very beneficial for the respiratory system. The first one I'm going to talk about is RC. It stands for Respiratory Care, and it is a blend of oils that comes in the starter kit. It has 4 different species of eucalyptus oil in there, along with some other oils that highly support the respiratory system and proper function. So RC, number 1. I mean, everyone knows that the smell of eucalyptus, when you breathe it in, that it immediately kind of opens everything up, right? So RC is obviously like the first choice for all things sinus and respiratory support. So RC, number 1, it's like the powerhouse, and it does come in the Young Living Starter Kit. Frankincense is the next one. Frankincense is supportive to pretty much every body system. That's why it's included in the starter kit. If you look up the chemical constituents in frankincense and you then research a little bit on what those chemicals do in the body, you will see why frankincense is very supportive to every system of the body. So frankincense is one that I use a lot for my son. RC is a blend of some very strong oils, so with little kids and babies, you wouldn't want to go straight to RC. You would want to use something more mild. And I'm going to tell you in a second the best thing for babies for respiratory support. But for my son, he's 8. He's very sensitive, and RC is a strong blend. I only use that one as needed. But just for everyday, like regular support of the respiratory system, I use frankincense and lemon for him. Occasionally, I will use copaiba, which is also in the starter kit. All 4 of those oils I just mentioned come in the starter kit. So all of those oils are very beneficial to the respiratory system, very supportive of normal function, of clear and open airways. So RC, frankincense, lemon, and copaiba. Those are the top oils we use in our home for respiratory support. Now, if we're talking little kid and baby, copaiba, frankincense, and lemon are all very mild oils. I always recommend that you use one oil at a time with a baby. That way you know what's working and what's helping. And you can easily determine if there's an oil that they're sensitive to or that's a little bit too strong. So it's very easy to narrow it down. If you're using 6 different oils at a time on a young child and you're trying to figure out what's going on and what's working, that's gonna take you a little bit more time to figure out. So it's best to use one oil at a time with a baby or a very young child. So copaiba, frankincense, and lemon are all very mild for little ones. And then myrtle. Myrtle is highly, highly recommended for babies and young children for sinus and respiratory support, specifically supporting clear airways. myrtle. So those are the oils, the top oils for respiratory support. There are others, but these are like the top ones, just to give you an idea of the most frequently used oils for respiratory support. Then we have some supplements. Okay, so Omega Jazz, that was one of the core supplements that I've talked about. Your healthy fats are essential to every system of the body, and the respiratory system is no exception. So having healthy fats are going to support healthy lung function and healthy function of every other organ and system. If you're not getting healthy fats in your diet, then Omega Jazz is definitely a good supplement for you to take. Sulfurzyme is the next supplement I'm going to talk about. Sulfurzyme from Young Living comes in capsules or powder form. I'm not a big fan of mixing powders into my drinks and taking them unless it's my amino acids. So Sulfurzyme, I prefer it in the capsule. But if you have a child that can benefit from this, you could mix it in with juice or Ningxia Red for them to drink it. So Sulfurzyme contains MSM, and then it also contains the Ningxia wolfberry. That's why it tastes good in Ningxia, because there's Ningxia wolfberry in it. So it mixes well. What is MSM? So if you're not sure about MSM, MSM is methyl sulfonyl methane. That is the long chemical word for MSM. It's a protein building compound that is found in breast milk. It allows the body to more effectively take up oxygen. That's one of the functions of MSM. It's a very beneficial substance in the body. It's also needed by the body for healthy joints and connective tissues. That's your ligaments and your tendons and your muscles. All of your tissues in your body benefit from MSM. It's also good for healthy skin, hair, and nails. Lots of people take this supplement specifically for hair growth and strong, longer nails. So Sulfurzyme is great. It also contains the Ningxia wolfberry, like I said, which supplies nutrients for the proper assimilation of sulfur. That's why it's called Sulfurzyme. It helps the body to process and assimilate sulfur. So that is the oils and the supplements most recommended for respiratory support. But also, since I talked a little bit about the products that can cause respiratory irritation, and reactions even, we want to talk about things to replace those. So I talk a lot in this group about Thieves Cleaner. So if you have cleaners, chemical cleaners in your home, which everyone does, I switched out all the products in our home for Thieves Cleaner exclusively. I use the Thieves Household Cleaner to clean everything in my home. You can mix it up in different concentrations. It comes in a concentrated bottle, and then you just mix up a spray bottle. So it literally costs like $1 something for every huge 16-ounce spray bottle that I make up, which lasts me months. And then I still have the little bottle of concentrate, so I don't have to order it monthly. I don't have to order it even every 2 or 3 months. It's a lot more spaced out that I order the Thieves Cleaner. Obviously, switching out different fragrances, products that contain fragrance and different things that can irritate the respiratory system is a good idea. Young Living has tons of body care products. I've mentioned those already in some different videos. But just ask if you're curious about a certain product. You're welcome to ask on this video, and I'll get to your question. And then diffusers. So there's a diffuser that comes in the Young Living starter kit with your oils. And it is a much better option than candles, wax burners, air fresheners, the Febreze, the sprays and things like that, room sprays and deodorizing sprays. All of those things are respiratory irritants. They have multiple chemicals in them that can damage airways and that can cause reactions and irritations in the respiratory system, not to mention skin. So if you guys watched the very first video I did in here about why we started using Young Living and what got us into it, we started because of my son's skin and respiratory systems. So the starter kit was the best option for me because of what comes in the starter kit. I got a diffuser to diffuse things into the air for him. Amazing for respiratory support. So if you've got a kid with respiratory issues and you're burning candles and you're spraying cleaners and you spray Febreze and you're using carpet freshener and you're using these harsh chemicals on your floors, and you're spraying them in your air vents, and you wear perfume, literally the list goes on and on and on of the things that we use multiple times on a daily basis that are respiratory irritants. And then all we look at is, well, my son has this condition and it's diagnosed and we have to use this medication. Well, when we remove some of those things, you can improve your health just by removing irritants in your home. And if you don't believe me, just do it. It costs you no money to spend money on thieves cleaner instead of on 409 and bleach and Comet and 20 different cleaners. It actually saves you money when you do that, and you can test it out for yourself and check the respiratory response there. So the diffusers are a much better option than all of those things in the home. So we got the starter kit because of the things that come in the kit for skin and respiratory support and wellness, not to mention the diffuser. So diffusing in your home is a much better option. We do it all day long. We do it while we sleep, and it's just a better deal for the respiratory system. So I told you guys that was going to be a short, sweet one today. So that's it. That's the basics on the respiratory system. And if you have any questions about that, you're welcome to ask here, and I'll get to that. If you know that you want to get started with Young Living, if you're not a member yet, then you simply go to youngliving.com, and you're going to need to contact the person that that recommended you to this group or added you to this group to get their member number, and then you'll get your starter kit, or you can get a basic membership with Young Living and add on respiratory support oils and supplements and things like that. In my opinion, the starter kit is best for respiratory support because it does come with a diffuser and several oils for respiratory support. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask them, and I hope you guys have a great end to your Monday. Thanks.